John Damulira's wife wails outside the High Court premises. She wants government compelled to produce her husband, whether dead or alive. Damulira is amongst 18 persons who are still missing after they were abducted by security personnel in 2019 and 2020 and carted off to detention centers, many of which are not gazetted. Most of the abductions came on the heels of protests in Kampala, sparked by the arrest of the NUP's party president, Robert Kyagulanyi, in Luka district on November 18, 2020. With the police stretched, the military police, as well as the Special Forces Command, were deployed in the heart of the city and its outskirts to thwart the protests. About 50 civilians, a majority of which were passers-by, were killed during the protests. In the aftermath and relying on CCTV cameras, security personnel rounded up a number of NUP supporters, including Vincent Nalumonso, John Damulira, Martin Lukwago, Godfrey Kisembo, and Hassan Mubiru. Earlier on June 3, 2019, John Bosco Chibalama, who was an accountant with NUP, was abducted on Gayaza Road. Today, 18 persons, many of them supporters of NUP, in central Uganda, the bastion of the largest opposition party, remain missing. On December 15, 2022, human rights lawyers filed the writ of habeas corpus in the courts of law. Habeas corpus, which is a common law prerogative writ, is meant to compel the appearance of persons in courts. It gained a footprint in Uganda's legal jurisprudence in 1966.
Interestingly, in 1966, as much as, for instance, in the cases that lawyers and people that know our legal history know about ex parte matovu, interestingly, as much as those cases, the Ibingira's ex parte matovu were disappointing in terms of failing to, drive home the point that you cannot seize power in ways that are unconstitutional. One of the benefits, something that came out positively out of the Ibingira case especially, was concretizing the writ of habeas corpus, where the court agreed that in common law, there is this writ of habeas corpus, it's actually applicable in Uganda. The effect of that writ of habeas corpus is that any individual that is in detention has the right to demand that the state produces them in a court of law, either that person themselves or relatives or any people that may be interested.
That one, if you've not held someone in a gazetted place, you've not charged them, you've not produced them in court, then explain why you are holding them. And we usually utilize it when we don't know, for starters, where the person is detained. Sometimes we may have an idea, but we're not sure. Because even many times the security operatives, when they are holding people in these ungazetted places, even when you go there, they will not tell you that we have them, because many times they don't even have a record of the people they hold.
It is amongst the non-derogable rights provided for in Article 44 of the Constitution. The others are freedom from torture and cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment, freedom from slavery or servitude, and the right to a fair hearing. However, the state has not yet produced the missing persons in courts of law. George Musi, a human rights lawyer, says they expect the High Court to act judiciously.
Right now there are 18 missing persons, and the case, we filed the case in the High Court of Uganda. Actually, we expect judgment in that case this month, on the 29th of this month. And what we asked court, that we got affidavits from all the people, relatives, spouses, siblings, parents of these missing persons, and we put all that evidence before court. The first reason was these people had failed to get a remedy elsewhere. As you remember, we went to the Human Rights Commission, the matter was inconclusive. We went to Parliament. You remember last December, opposition MPs even walked out. Parliament attempted to bring it on the order of business, and then it ended inconclusively. That's why we ended up going to court, and what we are seeking from court is for court to compel government to account for these people.
These disappearances were probed by the Uganda Human Rights Commission. On October 10, 2023, the Commission's chairperson, Mariam Wangadia, revealed that they have been prompted to close the probe into the cases of the missing persons after failing to trace them. However, the families of the missing persons accused the chairperson of complicity by pandering to the whims of the state.
And see how eager they are to get any information about the state of their family members who were abducted. That is what I would expect any family who has lost someone, whose person is missing and they don't know where they are. I would expect that family, I would expect that wife or mother to be so eager to talk to an investigator. This one we have not seen. It is something so strange. So other than put me to task as to why these people don't want to talk to us, I leave it to you.
So it is clear Mariam Wangadia is a biased person. We want to encourage her. If this job is too heavy for you, let it go. There are some more competent people out there that can do this job, because these are the lives of Ugandans and they matter. And by the way, as we have said time and again, we need to depoliticize this matter. In other words, this matter should cease to be seen through political lenses, because it can happen to anybody.
More than 4 years since he disappeared, the Prime Minister, Robina Nabanja, in February 2023, courted controversy when she claimed that Kibalama was a hardcore criminal who was detained in 2022 for allegedly killing police officers.
That is claimed to have killed police officers.
How could a man who was abducted in 2019 be responsible for a crime in 2022? Did he escape detention, or was he ubiquitous to carry out such a heinous act? It is what led to the acrimony in Parliament between the former leader of opposition, Mathias Mpuga, and the Prime Minister.
Continue begging and asking, first of all, the Prime Minister, because he's the one who talked about my husband. Before I'd surrendered that, I thought that he was not there. But when he mentioned his name, I received some hope. So I'm begging, the way she's a mother, I'm a mother too. My kids they need that fatherly love. They have missed that love. So I'm begging the government to just help me. In case he did something wrong, let them bring him to court.
Seriously, in its report on the missing NUP person, the Uganda Human Rights Commission recommends that a separate report into the same matter by the Human Rights Committee of Parliament be published. This has been viewed as a gross dereliction of its duties and a travesty of justice. Damulira has been missing since December 2020, and the Commission claims that efforts to search for him in detention centers and an order of Habeas Corpus issued by the High Court have proved futile. Damulira was reportedly beaten badly and bled profusely on the day he was taken, according to those he was arrested with, including his son. Similarly, Godfrey Kisembo's wife does not know the circumstances of his disappearance. Before his abduction, Kisembo, who was a NUP supporter, served as a school head teacher at Kisita Primary School in Mubende district. Martin Lukwago was allegedly arrested by masked men on 23rd November 2020 at Bugolobi Market, where he eked a living. He remains missing till today. Many of the families whose loved ones are missing remain groping in the dark and are dealing with what psychologists call ambiguous loss, unable to grieve because there are no remains for which to mourn and bury. Those whose loved ones are missing also can't entirely give up hope of being reunited with the missing. Psychologists opine that it is this unsettling equilibrium they inhabit. Under the Estates of Missing Persons Management Act, a missing person is a person who disappears from Uganda without making provision for the administration of his or her estate and investigations have shown that his or her whereabouts are unknown. According to Section 20 of the Act, after a period of 3 years, such a person is presumed dead. 4 months after seizing power on January 26, 1986, President Museveni's National Resistance Movement government established a commission of inquiry to look into the cycle of violence that plagued the country since the post-colonial era.
You can see that one of the things that you see that paints the sad history of this country are enforced disappearances. You listen to people whose people disappeared, whose children, whose wives, whose husbands, whose mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters disappeared during the time of Idi Amin. When they speak about it, you feel that they are scars.
The Commission's final report, titled Pearl of Blood, delivered in October 1994, detailed grim tales by survivors of their families, by some of the actors in the armies of Obote and Amin from 1962 to 1970, 1971 to 1979, and 1980 to July 1985, respectively.